3 minutes in, so I'll just go ahead and start. This is my first stream for the gray ant, and I think it's super important to kind of dissect the book and talk about the origins and everything else. So basically, I um, wrote the book, My Colors and My Star, and I wrote those for my kids. And basically I wrote them in a way that there is actually a message for adults, but in the format for children. So for example, it's a children's illustration, but the idea is that the parent is reading the story, but the message was for the parent. So after I started reading these, Lost in Vibration. Hey, you were my first. Thank you, Lost in Vibration, for being here. uh, I've been waiting, so I'm happy that you're here. You put a smile on my face, my friend. So yeah, I'll just start talking about the original idea for the gray ant, and that I decided that I want to stream every week or every Saturday to discuss more about the book. So, anyways, it's K2. Nice. Hey, bud. Sending you lots of love, man. Everything starts with baby steps. So, anyways, yeah, man. Super cool, dude. Yeah. All right, man. Put a smile on my face, bud. So the idea was that I wrote these two children illustration books with the idea of the message for the parent, right? Um, and so I kind of stepped away from that, and there was a moment when it was like, I want to write some more, and I started thinking about another book for my kids. I have 4 children, and I loved writing, and it was something that I kind of like kept in the closet in a sense where I didn't really tell anybody, but it was calling me. Um, In fact, I kind of showed up late to the game in literature. I probably was around 34, 33, 34 when I started loving literature. And I still remember the book, The Red Badge of Courage, where it was about the Civil War. It was through the eyes of a journalist. And I remember that I'm reading this on my own, and there's a sentence that says, "And the sun was pasted in the sky." And I remember that sentence, and it annoyed me. Well, why did it annoy me? It's because it's like, why did you use paste? And from there, it was just like, wait, there's words, and then let's go deeper. I'm just like, whoa, there's a world underneath that I'm not capable, but if I keep diving deep, I'm gonna love it. So from there, I dove deep into literature, and I read all the time. So going back to the origins of the gray ant, is like I wanted to write another story for my kids, and so I love analogies. I think they're the best way. So instead of like being on the soapbox and preaching and going direct, I think there's analogies or allegories are super powerful. I mean, if you think about Animal Farm, or if you think about Watership Down, it's just like whoa. So, anyways, I have this allegory, and it was more of like personal therapy in a sense of like growing up in such a very extreme religious context where there wasn't a lot of freedom of thought, and everything was based more on behavior than anything else. But that was just one level. And so I actually started writing this book in 2014. I outlined it, and throughout the years, I just got bigger and bigger. And so what's crazy is like the last, 11 years of me, not only as a human, having a human experience on this planet, but just observing the world and also my perspective of the world. So it started off with something that was micro and personal, and then it just expanded, just my view of the world. And my view of the world was very naive. Like I believed, like I have this idea that based on an authority figure, that they're right or the system is right. And that was one thing that always bothered me. I'm just like, why do I think that this person is always right based on their position or whoever they were? And so, as we realize in life, even though we're part of a cultural setting or a political setting or like a social construct, it's kind of like, wait a minute, let's take a step back, and I'll use matrix language, the red pill and the blue pill. You know, is what I'm doing the right way? Is what I'm thinking the right way? I remember language. Language is so fundamental. Is that I remember that I was talking to somebody and we were talking about the differences between America and England. And just by default, I said, oh, yeah, they drive on the wrong side of the road. And that was one of those moments where I'm just like, whoa, I just said the wrong side. Why did I say the wrong side? Like I had to stop because there's this idea that we have been indoctrinated to think that our belief system, our government system, our our infrastructure, like everything we're taught to believe that everything that we have been born into is the right way. So, and that's what's wonderful when you come across different cultures and in different countries where you see how life isn't everything where you're from. So I kind of expanded on that. So the gray ant for me started off as personal therapy. It wrote itself. Like I didn't even think about what am I going to write next. Like, there's the curse of the writer's block. I don't have it. I will never have it because, my head is full of ideas. So it's 2014. I just finished my colors, my star, the children's illustration, and now I've moved on to something bigger. And I'm just like, wait a minute. I want to write something a little bit more complex. And so I started writing The Gray Ant. And so there's so many things. Hold on. I'm going to give a shout out. Yes. I'm giving a shout out to my wonderful, wonderful, wonderful friend, Kamau. So I got Kevin and Kamau in here. I love it. Thank you for being here, my brother. So, anyways, I started writing this in 2014, and I already knew the story. Like it just wrote itself. And so as years passed, I became more of a complex. Um, well, I don't want to say I want to became a complex. I became more of a refined and calibrated writer. So I would go back and refine and change and add. And so I got to a point where in 2025, I'm just like, listen, you're hitting the 5-0 soon. You have all these ideas, you have all these stories that are collecting dust. What are you going to do? So it's like it's time. It's time. So I had to face a lot of things. The first level was procrastination. It's just like, well, Kevin, it's a procrastinator, and I'm like, okay, am I? But then I had to stop and I had to dive deep. I don't like anything superficial, and I had to dive deep. And diving deep, it was like, well, under the shield of procrastination is something a little bit deeper and a little bit more profound, and it is value, self-worth. It's like, are your words worthy of the world? Do you have a story? Are your words meaningful or nobody cares? And so I had to like dig deep and realize, whoa, am I self-sabotaging myself? I would write a story, never finish it, and start a new book. And I did that for years. I'm like, what's going on? And then I realized I had to dig deep. I had to do like this work on myself. It's just like, yes, you have a valid message. Yes, your words are important. But it was so difficult getting there. So this is the beginning of my journey, just trying to figure out, okay, figure out me, figure out the world. I want to write a meaningful story for my children. And so, anyways, so I start off with the gray ant. And the idea of the gray ant was basically I needed something that reflected a society that was 100% efficient. From morning to night, it was efficiency, it was being productive, it was being obedient. And so at first I thought of bees and I didn't vibe with the bees. And then I thought of ants. I'm just like, whoa, I'm doing the ants. And I chose Africa because I needed something. I don't want to use the term primitive, but I needed something ancient and mystical and almost kind of like a human origin story, right? And it's just like I need something, so I'm just like Africa. It's easy. Where? Savannah, northern Savannah. So it was just easy for me, and then I just put pen to paper, and the story took off. Looking back, I just it's almost like a gigantic cake because it has so many levels to it. And now looking back at it, I'm just like, oh my goodness, like because I write it without the idea of creating micro and macro levels of human complexities. Like it just came out through my subconscious. Um, and then when I ran through it, and I was looking at the themes. I'm just like, oh my goodness, this is a powerful theme. Like I'm writing it, but like without intent to write this theme. And so, anyways, so what I decided to do is like I'm going to stream, which I'm doing now, talk a little about the beginning of the book, talk about the theme of today, and then obviously each Saturday or Sunday I plan on doing other streams up until when the book is published. So I decided that I wanted to do a Kickstarter campaign. So I'm in my pre-launch. So no, I believe it's November 27th. 2 weeks from now is when I officially launch my Kickstarter campaign. Um, and hold on, sound off. Hold on. Let's fix the sound. Can you hear me? Oh, hold on. I just want to make sure the sound is okay. Okay. Okay, good. You can hear me. Thank you. So I decided that I'm going to go Kickstarter campaign. And the reason why is because through Kickstarter campaign, I can personalize things. Like I can give something to um, just more than just the reader. Like because there's so much content around it. And I believe that music is a very powerful medium. And I told myself right when I was even writing my children's illustration book, I'm going to create music to this. So every story I've published on now I've only published two has its own music. And now I'm creating music. Well, not me personally. I'm using digital tools, but it needs music, right? So there's all these extra things that I want to give. I think Kickstarter is a wonderful campaign. So as far as it being published, officially be ready to be published in December. Right now, I'm working on the maps. I love maps for those who love reading, especially for those who are fantasy. Um, People that are fantasy readers, uh, everybody loves a map. So I'm working on the map right now. I'm working on the soundtrack because they're powerful mediums and they're part of the story, right? So what I wanted to do is I wanted to set out and create a system where you have these ants in this system where I wanted to give weight to it. So I used the Bantu Swahili language, which is local African language, to give it weight. Now, is it 100% translated? Like if I wanted to use the term, um, like for example, spider. Um, the Swahilian language can be very complex. And if I use the official language and you're reading it, you're like, how am I going to read this? There's like MTs. How do I pronounce that? So I kind of Englishized the Swahilian language, but to give it weight. So basically, what happens is that the main character, which is Kijivu, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but written Kgvu, which means gray. She's born in this colony. And people that are born in this colony, which is army ants, biologically, they're army ants. They have a very like a honey skin color, and they live. So I try to use biological facts, and I try to use language They have their own mythology. Like I dove deep into this because for me, it was a very serious story. It was a very beautiful, meaningful story. And in my head, I kept thinking, how do I give it weight? How do I give it weight? Anyways, so I said, okay, how am I going to make this more complex? Well, think about the human, the human society. How do we make that complex? Well, that's easy. Mythology, because they live and breathe mythology. They live and breathe their goddess. So I use biology in a sense of all the ants. The 90% of all the ants are female. Why is that? Because in ant colonies, um, they're all females. The males are the male drones that impregnate the queen, and then they die. So I try to give faith to that. Um, and so, anyways, I try to give faith to biology and to the Swahili language to give it weight. So, anyways, so the story starts off with this character, and nobody has a name, and I'll talk later about that. But only the worthy are given names in naming ceremonies. So they're already born with the idea of, in order to be worthy to be named, right? So you're looking at a colony of over 10 to 20,000 ants. The only person that has a name is the queen, and their god. It's the divine god, the divine mother, which they call Mulungu. And so everything is under the judgmental eye of the queen, the terrestrial queen, their own personal queen, their mother, and then their divine mother. And so that's how they operate. And so worthiness is through labor, this kind of old Protestant idea of, you can only be saved through works, right? This is an old idea as far as under the umbrella of early Christianity. So it's just like, so they labor till they basically, their skin is blotted from the sun, they lose limbs, or they break pieces of their body, laboring. And laboring could be anything from getting rid of the dead, so the sweepers, to foragers, to scavengers, to, and there's a caste system. And obviously the highest on the caste is the queen, and then the virgin queens, then the soldiers, and the soldiers play a huge role in this. So anyways, you have this complex society, that they all have roles. It's deep in mythology. So, and everybody has their role, and they follow this code. They call it the Changu code, which is, I call it the Ishiru. It's a neutral name, and I wanted to give a neutral name to something that's kind of like something they would die for, like for the Vikings, the Valhalla, right? It's like Valhalla, that's my heaven. So I created this very complex society where basically this main character quickly realizes that the world around is really not the world that she was brought up to. And at first, the first couple of chapters is her showing how she wants to prove her worth at all costs, even risking death. And there's these little things that happen, and they're they're extremely explicit. But she keeps ignoring it because she's like, no, I'm part of this system. And I know that if I do this, that I will go to heaven. Now, they don't use the term heaven, right? That is a very modern Western way of saying paradise. So there's this famous quote I love about it, is that they say it all the time. They say, we labor to feast beyond the dark, as if to say, we suffer now, we will struggle now, but we will prove our worth through struggling and starving, right? And toiling until we die, because after death, then we'll find ourselves in these sacred halls of the divine mother, Mulungu, where they will constantly feast because they're constantly hungry. And it's not because of scarcity. is because of other things that come in play. So there's this very tight structure of reinforcement, right? So there's micro reinforcement, macro reinforcement. So everyone's looking, everyone's judging, everyone's thinking, okay, I got to do this because I want a name. So that is kind of like the terrestrial heaven to be named, right? You have a name, oh, you're up there. So, anyways, so I created this system, and so if we follow this character along, it's like little by little, she becomes disfranchised, right? She becomes self-marginated because she realizes that it's cruel and it's complex and it's indifferent and it's very intolerant. And she sees sometimes behind the curtains of what's actually there. And so like I fell in love with this character. I fell in love with all my characters. And so like I told you, like it just wrote itself. And the book, it's called The Gray Ant, The Story of an Awakening, because for me, this is total bias, but for me, I had just finished I just finished my fourth round of editing. And of course, I have my beta readers and stuff like that. Like I started crying, and it sounds silly because it's just like, "Are you an idiot? What are you crying for? This is a book that you wrote that you know the ending, but what I wanted is reader experience. What I wanted I wanted a message that when the reader got to the end, it was a wake up call. But it wasn't a wake up call for the main character in the book. It's for the reader. And it doesn't come off preachy, and it doesn't come off, oh, let's look around and talk about doom and gloom. It's more subtle. It's more personal basis, right? And so, anyways, as we follow this character, um, that she doesn't know what to do. And it gets to the point where she's aged, and all of a sudden she befriends an aunt who says to her, I have a, I'm I want to be friends with you, but I have to tell you a secret. And so here the main character, and up until now, so I'm 4 or 5 chapters in, and I don't want to give too much in. The character doesn't have a name. Nobody has a name. And from a writing point of view, that was a giant pain in the ass because she said, she moved, she ate, she talked. No, it's not that bad. That was a challenge, but it was necessary because naming is part of the system that keeps you in check, right? Um, I was listening to Dave Chappelle once, and it was really cool. He says, you're part of the system from 9 to 5. But if it's 9 to 6, you start going crazy. So it's kind of like a system pushes you to your limit, but not to that limit where you want to revolt. Anyways, so going back to the main character, she comes across somebody who secretly says, I have a name. And just from there, the story explodes because it's just like, wait a minute. Why are you telling me that you have a name and it's in secret? This is something that everybody craves for. They wake up in the morning and they think, how can I labor more than the other to get a name? Because in a naming ceremony, you have a special connection. You're physically closer to the queen, and that's all you want. That name is like that badge of honor. And so the character is confused. And so we dive into a very different version of this colony. And by the way, the name is the Chagu. Now, Chagu means clean. And I wanted to find a really good name that's Swahilian based that means the chosen. So it's a mix between the chosen and the clean, because through them, they realize that they have their territory and they have borders, and along their borders they have enemies. So there's their enemy ants, there are termites. So we go into this biological world where it's just like the enemy is another living creature. But their whole concept of life is we got to turn the world into chagu. Why? because that's the right way. And going back to what I was saying before is when I was talking to a friend and subconsciously I said, "Oh yeah, in England they drive the wrong way," right? Why did I say the wrong way? Is because my way is the right way, right? So it's like the Chagos, it's like any system, whether it's a religious system or whether it's a political system where you are on the spectrum. It's just like my way is the right way. So, anyways, we dive deep into this and we find out there's so many layers of complexity where awakened, basically, in this case, is taking that step and really looking at where we live, right? So the main character, Kiji, she's like, "Well, I'm dying. You're telling me something super crazy. What am I supposed to do with this?" And the character says, "Well, when you come back, you need to remember my name." And the character's name is Maji. And she's like, "What are you talking about?" And she says, "Oh, I need to know your name. You have to give yourself a name." And so the main character is super confused because she's dying. She's old. Her body is totally destroyed. She feels guilty because she never got a name, that she doesn't feel that she's worthy, which is something common within all of us. And she's about to die, hoping that Mulungu will forgive her for her weaknesses and accept her. And all of a sudden, there's somebody who denies the fabric of the entire society, that there's a small ant that goes up to her and says, "Hey, I'm going to tell you a secret. This is my name." And so she's like, "What's your name?" And so there she is on the bed, basically in tears, saying, "You're telling me I can give myself a name?" And so she's thinking about all the things in her life, the very rare moments that she loved. And the rare moments that she loved was at night when the moon turned the world silver and gray, when the world was quiet, when there were no horns that were blown from shells that demanded um, work or labor, like everyone was sleeping and there alone, that she just felt connected to everything. So she says, "My name is Gray," and then she passes away. So one thing that's in the book that I decided to do is I fall on reincarnation, but not as the concept of I'm pushing this on the reader. It's just like reincarnation is a part of a system. And so she comes back, the main character comes back. Um, and so from there, the story just goes on. But I want to stop there because I don't want to dive too deep into the story. But my the what I wanted to tell you kind of is kind of mm, the birth of the gray ant, and me kind of personally is like, me as a writer, I realized that I need those books that push me. I need those books that take me to the next level. There's that famous saying where it says every book you read is a life gained, right? So it's just like, how can I express this in a way that's super powerful? And nobody can like take a step back and say, "Oh, what are you trying to say here?" It's just like, I'm talking about ants. So, anyways, it's it's over 30 chapters, and it's a novel. And the story of the awakening is this person who not only physically changes, but also mentally has a different perspective. And so she leaves her territory and she comes across other insects or other creatures. And so there's this huge journey behind it. And there is self discovery, not only of herself, but the discovery of a world that's forbidden. And so each chapter that moves on, whether it's conscious or subconscious, the more truer she is to herself, the more she's breaking old traditional chains, right? But that is her path. That is her path. And that is what she follows. And in doing so, she gains personal power. So anyways, it's a beautiful story. And it took a long time to kind of put all my ideas together. But like I said, I took a pen to paper and it just wrote itself. So the main thing that I wanted to say is that, stories from the colony is that, if you look around, it can even be in a working environment, right? I'll use that right now as an example. Is like there's people that understand the system and they kind of work, and then there's other people that I'll use the term drink Kool-Aid, right? They're just like, yeah, right. But I think it's important, and I'll use the term balance because I my message was harmony. And the whole reason that there's this dramatic transformation and change in this colony is because there needs to be harmony. And there is disharmony somewhere else without me going into detail. And so as I was writing the story, I wanted to talk about a lot of things, but the overall principle was harmony, right? How do I find harmony? Well, what does that mean? Is it micro? Is it personal harmony? Is it kind of like in my own circle? Is it bigger in my community, in my city, in my country, or us as humans, right? So I really believe that if we're able to get rid of those shackles of whatever system we were brought up into, and of course, not everything is black and white. I don't believe anything is black and white. Hey, the gray. Uh-oh. Maybe I'm talking too much. I don't want to get out too much. There are very few things, me personally, I believe that are black and white. There's a lot of gray. There's a lot of color. There's a lot of numbers from 0 to 10. So, anyways, it's definitely a wonderful, beautiful, amazing, sad, thoughtful journey. And I wanted to write it in a way that you, the reader, actually was not watching it, but it's you who is on this journey. And if you think about it, it's just like what things that I was consciously or subconsciously told what was right and what was wrong. And now it's just like, whoa. Now things can also be intergenerational, right? I was talking about personal self-worth in the beginning of why am I writing all these books? I'm never finishing and I haven't published anything. I've been writing since 2014. Hey. So it's easy, like I said in the beginning, to say, oh, he just procrastinates. But let's dive deeper. No, self-worth. Wait, why am I having problems with self-worth? It's not like somebody sat in a chair when I was little and said, Kevin, you're not worth anything, So it's kind of us looking at ourselves and saying, okay, how can I become a better version of myself? How can I listen to the song? And I use song because the main character develops I will say, gift of singing. It's more of a chanting, more of a humming. So anyways, like I said, I developed this complex structure that mimics the human structure. And, it's an allegory. And so, yeah, we just go on this huge adventure till well, no, I can't say anything. I don't want to. If I tell you, you'd be like, hey, man, if you're telling me the whole book, why am I going to read it? I'll be like, oh, okay, you're right. Yeah, so for me, like I told you, I wanted to give it a lot of weight. And so there's a lot of indoctrinated thought processes in the beginning, right in the chapter 1. It's called the unders, and the unders is a very deep place in the colony where it has been abandoned because while they were digging, they came across a kind of like I don't remember what they're called, like a water table, like it was an underground water spot, and it kind of flooded this place. And so, in the Chagu ant society, when you're born as an antling, usually you're a sweeper, and the sweepers sweep out the dead because ants are one of the cleanest living creatures on this planet. They constantly clean themselves. So this is a biological fact. They're constantly cleaning themselves. They're one of the cleanest, I'll use the term, living creatures on this planet. And so anything that's dead, right, is a problem. So they go down and they're cleaning. And of course, it's a place where nobody wants to go to because it's not safe. It's moldy, it's dirty, it's full of mud in a society that focuses on cleanliness. And so, anyways, there's a moment when there's the two sweepers, the main character and another character that's minor, that is so sick from the smell because it's putrid, vomits, and it's instant shame. And the shame is, oh no, Mulungu saw me, like my divine mother saw me, and I did something that was not chagu, which is do something of improper. And what is improper in their eyes was to vomit. You need self control. You don't have it, so you're not worthy. So these subtle things, um, but there's also a lot of beautiful things, like there's this connection to the earth. I wanted the main character to be connected to Mother Earth, and I think we've lost that connection. There's moments when I'm just like, okay, I got to find alternate ways to handle moments when I'm not calm or I'm struggling with anxiety. And I've come across so many things that say the same thing. Well, you need to be grounded. And what does that mean? Well, majority is you need to take off your freaking shoes and walk on the ground. And you're like, what? I need to walk on the ground. Yeah, you got to walk on dirt and grass. It's like, what? That's kind of weird. Is it? We have this idea that we're just visitors on this planet, this rock in space, right? And it's just like, no, there's so much more to it because it's just like, wait a minute, I am part of the universe. I am the universe. You know, if we want to go scientific, if you think about helium and hydrogen and how stars are made, and then how planets are made and how we're made, it's just like, wait a minute. It's not like I'm some visitor and I'm just here for a little bit and then I'm gone. It's just like, no, there's something more powerful, more mystical, more beautiful about that. And so, anyways, um, I just wanted to put a lot of weight, not for the way to make somebody say, well, this is too heavy. I got to put the book down. But just to kind of like step back and say, whoa, this is crazy. Where am I? Right? Where am I in my journey? Have I been able to kind of like find my path? Have I been able to decide, you know what, today I'm not going to work 12 hours and I'm just going to dedicate time to myself? And for Kiji, that was hiding in the grassy savannah at night just to look at the moon, which was basically illegal because a hesitant ant is an unworthy ant. And if you're not moving, then you're unworthy. And so this is her way of betrayal, of just sitting and staring at the moon. And you're thinking, whoa, that's pretty crazy. Well, let's dive in personally. Imagine you're going to your friend's house and he's out in his balcony or his patio and he's staring out in the sky. And you're like, what are you doing, man? I'm just staring at the moon. It's beautiful. Like maybe you would be like, oh, yeah, I totally agree. But 10 years ago, 15 years ago, the 15-year-old ago, Kevin would be like, oh, dude, you're weird. So, anyways, so for those who have followed me all the way here, gray is the new free. What is the most beautiful thing you experienced while writing this story? Wow, that's a wow. The most beautiful thing that I experienced. Um, Oh man, I I almost want to cry on this one. Um, I think. Oh wow, I didn't expect this, and I think I'm gonna cry. Um, Whoa. Um, Two things. I think my own self value and worth that is not dictated by social constructs, and how this thing called life that is beautiful and mysterious and mystical is amazing if we are able to take off the glasses that we were given. Yeah. All right. Ah, all right. Didn't expect to be crying on this one. You made me cry. All right. When does the book come out? My goal is that it will be published and ready 1 week before Christmas. Now, obviously, the ebook will be 2 weeks before Christmas, so that's the easiest. Obviously, the ebook. But for those who love reading, you got to touch that. You got to touch it. Anyways, the ebook will be 2 weeks, so almost a month from now, and then it'll be ready for to be on Amazon. So yeah, like I said, going back to the book itself, when you do get the book, there will be a QR code because there'll be a soundtrack, and I don't know. Hold on for a sec. Oh, never mind. No, 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 no. Close. I was hoping that I was gonna add. I can't add it. Anyways, I was hoping to see if I can add a document where I can add the song. I have one song already ready. So, anyways, when you get the book and then you get the QR code, it will have the soundtrack. For me, that's vital because every story needs a music. Um, it's like that medium. Like I can. So, for example, it doesn't matter the subject. If I'm talking to you, so let's say we're in even like meditative, right? We're going through meditation, and I could guide you with words, right? It has a different vibration, right? But certain types of music with certain types of hertz, it's just like boom, that vibration just hits you, and you're just like, oh my goodness. So you're like quickly into that meditative moment. You're so like going back to stories. Every story deserves music. It does. So that's fundamental for me. As you know, if I'm not number one, I'll ignore you for a week. Sounds good. Yeah. You know what, you guys, I really appreciate it. I got my tribe here, and it's just the first step, right? And I think I've told most of you, everybody knows this is a moment of transformation, the transformation of the seven. I'm 49. It's just like let's take things and materialize them. So obviously the grant is the first one, and just to get it out there. And so I'm going to need a big help very soon. I've been asking a lot of you as far as book covers. I have three, two are minimalistic. One is a lot of coloring, and so that's important for me. Never judge a book by its cover, but unfortunately, a lot of us do. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I think today was kind of like a open free session as far as me, how I like to write, the beginning of me writing, the idea of the gray ant, how I just wanted to write a simple story for my kids, and what I was writing was a self-therapeutic story, right? That need to surface, and I didn't know that. I didn't know that until like years later. I was reading, I was like, wait a minute, is this about me? Which is crazy, right? So Yeah. So I was trying to figure out what kind of book it was, and it ranged from dark allegory, and I don't think there's nothing dark about it. I mean, yes, there's moments of death and moments of killing. Then there was like philosophical allegory, which I'm like, oh, I like that, but then I don't want to scare people. All right. Um. Anyways, how can I donate? Good question. I don't know how. Good question. Um, I really appreciate you asking for it. I think I have an idea, maybe something of like Patreon or something. I really appreciate it. Next Saturday. So, Lost in Vibration. I'll get back to you on this. I didn't think about that, to be honest with you. So, um, anyways, you did give me an idea or two, so I'll definitely get things moving. So, yeah, starting next week, whether it's Saturday or Sunday, it might be the same time. I'll dive deeper into the themes. I'll just focus on the themes. I'll try not to reveal a lot. I don't want to, but the the I want the journey to be amazing. I want the journey to be amazing, and I know, and I say this without arrogance, and I say this without ego, that it's a beautiful story, and that everybody needs to read it, because it's a powerful message, right? It's a powerful message. So, yeah, time will tell. Time will tell. Hey, no violence in my chat. No violence. No violence in my streamy. We just want love. We just want love. So, anyways, you guys, it's about 50 minutes. I really appreciate you coming out and you listening to me for so long. What I will try and do somehow is send out the soundtrack. I got to figure that out. This is all learning experience as far as me marketing on social media and me sending out my emails. So, anyways, um, yeah, I think that's what I want to do. So for all those, all the people that have listened to me, I really appreciate it. Hold on, let's do something. Answer viewer questions live. Hold on, start a queue. Let's do something. You had asked questions. So are there any other questions? Are there any other questions? Start the Q&A. This is something new, so I have no idea what's happening. Oh, what happened? Hold on. Answer questions live. Hold on. I think I don't like that. Let me go. All right, never mind. I'm back. Never mind. I'm back. Can we expect sessions like today's every Saturday until the book is published? Yes. Thank you, Kamal, for that question. Yes. I think it's important, especially because I'm a new and unknown author. I think it's important to connect to people and let them know that there's a human behind this. It's not a bot. And that I think it's important to talk about the themes because there it gives an idea that it's not the book is not for one specific niche. It's for all types of readers. So, and the themes are very important. I just broke it down into 8 themes. So yeah, yes, every weekend until Christmas. That's the plan. And today I had 5. And you know what's crazy? Can I say something? 5 is my lucky number, you guys. 5 is my lucky number. So, and who knows? 2 years down the road, right? 2 years down the road, where I I'll look back on this day, right? November 8th, 2025. I did my first stream with 5 people. Listen, you guys, I'm sending you lots of love, and I appreciate everybody that showed up. I really do. this helps me, this motivates me, right? So I'm giving everybody lots of love, and I hope to see you next week. And I definitely will do some homework as far as donation and getting you that music. Anyways, you guys, sending out lots of love, and I will see you next week. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. All right, guys. Sending out lots of love.